is wonderful. If they decide to go down the route of violence, then I can give you this assurance today. Of course, your worldwide listeners and viewers may be able to note this. If they do not give us Biafra, there will be nothing living in that very zoo they call Nigeria. Nothing will survive there, I can assure you. You see, 1967 to 1970 is not 2013 to 2015. We had scientists then, now we have men that can make things happen, even better than what we had in the late 60s. So that should ring as a warning to all of them that we are not joking. I do not believe in peaceful actualization or whatever rubbish is called. I have never seen where you become free by peaceful means. If you know, you tell me. I am a student of contemporary history. I have never come across anywhere in history books where you get your freedom out of a peaceful process. It's never happened.
If we abandon Chukwukika Biama in truth and honesty, please give back to Biafra. Biafra had in the pure years. You'll be only running around in circles. It can never come. It is the kingdom of heaven itself. You want to do something that is happening in heaven, on earth, for mankind to see and testify to the goodness of the Lord. You have to be of the courage. You have to be without fear in the face of your enemies. If you are without fear before your enemies will run from you. Rather than you running from them, your enemies will run from you. If you speak the truth always, regardless of the consequences, lies will run from you. You must protect those who cannot protect themselves, not to steal from them. I repeat, it is your job as a child of heaven, IPOB family member, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is your job. Not to kidnap them, not to rob them. You must be of good conduct. That Chiku Okike Abia left. If these conditions are not in place, Biafra will not come. Biafra Gahabia. Going to a native doctor, Dibianyanzu cannot save you. If you want Biafra, it doesn't work. We don't believe in that rubbish. Chukwukika is our shield and our guide. We don't commune with darkness. I am warning all 17 commanders, all our commanders, we don't commune with the devil. We don't do Odeshi. We believe in the protection that Chukwukika can offer. The weapon you need to protect yourself is your gun and your ammunition. We don't commune with spirit.
The worst mistake Buhari ever made was to arrest him. Yes. The worst mistake ever. What is going to happen? I am taking IPOB to Abuja on the 17th of next month in our court case.
We are with you, sir. We are with you.
There will be 2 million people in Abuja.
Yes.
2 million.
I will be there.
I will be there.
I will be there with you, sir.
I will be there. We take the battle to our enemies.
Yes, sir.
And let me make this very clear to you. You are under oath.
Yes.
And by virtue of that oath, you are under direct order from me.
Yes.
Any day you wake up, you hear I've been arrested, burn Nigeria down to the ground.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I hope we don't have network problems today. I want to welcome you to this live broadcast today, the 11th day of June 2023. This is Biafra Global Network, and it's season. It seems it's just freezing. I don't know what's happening. I hope I'm still on. I hope I'm still on. I hope we're still on. What's going on? Let me check with my device to know if it's working, if it's moving on and working. In case you can hear me, just send me a message. Let me know and let me be sure that something's happening. If it's moving on. Okay, it's working. I was not hearing anything. It's just freezing here. I don't know why the system is freezing. Thank you all for joining. And it's a privilege to have you here today. Thank you. Today is the 11th day of June 2023. Oh, thank you so much, Ego. We move forward with the truth. Thank you so much, UB. Thank you so much, Ego. Thank you, Shaw. That means we are on. As you join in, please just share on all your social media platforms so that people can listen to the gospel of truth, and at the same time, juxtaposition the truth with the scripture. And of course, today being Sunday, and this is 7 minutes past 5 p.m. in Biafra land. Today is Sunday. This is Biafra Global Network. My name is Kelechi Ambrose, and it's my privilege having you on this program today. Today, we shall be looking extensively on issues that pertain to Biafra, especially as we anticipate our freedom and as much as we come together in our, respective ideas, concepts, and expectation of Biafra, so that we anticipate together and collectively how we can free ourselves. First, by releasing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Remember, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is still in custody, and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, you see, most of the things and everything that we've been talking about today, there's nothing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has not talked about. And remember the first intro video I played about Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, he said something that show me anywhere in the world where you get your freedom without fighting for it. And he said, show me where you get your freedom without fighting for it. And I posted on Facebook, I said, freedom is a bloody business. I made reference to Christ, and I said Christ even had to shed his blood for people to be rescued and freed. And some people, because of their biased nature, their mindsets, they just, the people who claim to be looking for freedom, and all they think about is, as long as the statement is coming from you that they don't like, they have to oppose it. And they came, I saw some of those e-frogs on my platforms. I don't always respond to them. I just keep them quiet because I don't need to be mad with madness when people are mad, especially when the madness is negative, when it's in the negative side. And when you see a madman on the streets and displaying all of that stuff and abusing you as you pass, and he's abusing, what do? You just walk and pass, because he's not on his right mind, or in his right mind. So being in his wrong mind, you just have to move, because you that have been able to code it and understand that they are on their wrong mind, you then know that the right thing to do to a wrong mind is to ignore, or maybe if you want to help, you help the person, take the person to a psychiatric hospital for treatment, and to see how that person can be back in form. Today, we shall be looking at Biafra focus, and we shall be looking at the bloody side, or the bloody business called freedom. Now, freedom is not restricted anyways to the concept of Biafra alone. Biafra is a product of freedom, because when you have Biafra, you have freedom. But we also understand that the concept of freedom has been there from the foundations of the earth, or let's say from the time man was created and when nations began after Adam, was created and all of that. if you can make your studies, yes, thank you, Ego. I don't need to respond to them. Just focus and pass the message of truth and stay focused, because when you respond, you get distracted. And before I go in straight to this broadcast today, because it's going to be very interesting today, I tell you, we're going to be discussing very interestingly using scripture also. I'm going to be looking at the book of Joshua or Yehoshua, Joshua, of course, Joshua chapter 5, and then I'll go on verse 2, verse 3 or so, and then I'll go on verse 13 and 14. I just wanted to give some analysis from there, also making it, likening it to what we're doing now, and of course, the narrative, the prototype of Christ, in the sense, I'm giving you an analogy of what it means to have understanding of some history in relation to what you are doing. If you don't have the ability to discern and get the message of the past or history, then now time, you discover you're going to flow in the concept of error, and you'll mess yourself up and all of that. And that is why you have to understand history to be able to understand how to action that you are intending or you intended, so that in applying that action, you can tell from history how it didn't work, and then in your now action, you can now be able to upgrade or diffuse or remove or whatever, subtract or multiply this by your research and all of that to now utilize now. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Edith Nedu. Good to have you here. There certainly will be responses from genuine audience. Yes, thank you, Ego. Yes, there will be responses from genuine audience, and that's the motivation, and that is the real thing, because the responses from genuine audience simply means that the truth cannot be killed and destroyed. He said it's hanging, but keep moving, keep flowing. I don't know why the network signal is so poor in this area. It's been terrible for a while now. But please bear with me as we circumnavigate this whole thing about our freedom. But first, before we go on, I want to talk to people. You see, do not lose focus. The other time we saw a particular write-up from Chike, where he's analyzed, so making his own submission based on his clique and his rogue team, making their own submissions on Mazen and the Kano and treatment and all of that. And I see our people moving and taking all of this stuff, making it look like it is so. It's the statement of Chike will overrun or can affect anything or make anything positive or negative. I tell you, those statements and those write-ups and all those stuff they call press briefs and all of stuff from those people are just for formality. They just want to be relevant. They just want to be, they are all for formality because they have nothing to offer. Mazen and Bekano have been in custody for 2 years. No direct, nothing, no concept, no plan, no program, nothing to show for it that can tell us that we are going to go this way and achieve the result of Biafra. They supported Anambra election last year. It flopped, or is it last year or 2 years ago? They are now, they're busy now coming to they tell us is who is supposed to be the doctor, who is not supposed to be the doctor, who is supposed to check Mazen Amdekano, who is not supposed to check, and is Mazen Amdekano supposed to be in that confinement in the first place? That is the big question. So people should not take their write-ups as if it is. You should understand. You shouldn't even be surprised with all those stuff of their write-ups and whatever. Whether Chikedozium is writing, whether Simon is writing, it shouldn't bother you because in the first place, Mazen Amdekano is not supposed to be there. So if they come and keep telling you that Mazen Amdekano needs treatment and somebody is not supposed to be there, they are the ones who are supposed to carry out that stuff. You ask them the big question: is Mazen Amdekano supposed to be there? You call yourselves those who have collected resources, or you call yourself whatever you call yourself, DOS, DSS or DOS, whatever you call yourselves. You call yourself some stuff, and yet you couldn't do anything to make sure Mazen Amdekano is freed. You are only arguing on the fact that he is there and you need a doctor for him. Is that the issue? In fact, you should put your heads and cover your faces and your heads in shame for the fact that Mazen Amdekano is there now for 2 years, and all you are doing here is to argue about whether a medical doctor who is supposed to check him who has the right and who can approve of checking Mazen and the what kind of human beings are these? I just have to attend to this critically, and I'm attending to it not because it is their write-ups and whatever they're doing. Simon and the defunct, the so-called DOS members, their write-ups mean nothing to me. But I want to bring out some points here so that our people begin to ask the right questions, rather than saying I'm surprised, I'm disappointed in Chikedozium. Look at what Chikedozium has written. This, that, blah. No, the question you should ask them here is Mazen Nnamdi Kanu supposed to be in the DSS custody in the first place? The DOS was ordered and given the mandate that if the zoo arrests me or whatever happens to me, burn down the zoo. And yet you are quiet. Rather, you supported the zoo in their elections, Anambra election and the general elections. You supported them. Rather, you went contrary to what Mazen Nnamdi Kanu said. And here you are now coming to tell us about one particular doctor or whatever you are supposed to be the one to bring a doctor, and whether you are not supposed to be, or whether Allah Jimako is supposed to bring a doctor. What a shame on these people. Who are these people, for God's sake? What kind of conscience do they have? How are people so wicked and deadly? How are people so... Is it that we're too small in our minds that we can't even ask them the right questions? People should stop arguing about their letters. And whenever they bring such kinds of narratives, ask them the real question. Why is Mazen Nnamdi Kanu still there? If Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is out of that place, would we be talking about doctor or no doctor? Because the responsibility of people who are in authority at a particular time is to carry out action based on the fact or based on what is on ground as at that time. Once your leader is captured, it is your responsibility to do everything to frustrate the enemy to get your leader free, especially when it comes to freedom fighting. That is what is supposed to happen. In the case of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, by now, Nigeria is supposed to be on its knees, struggling and asking for dialogue. That is what is supposed to happen. Nigeria is supposed to be on its knees, asking for dialogue. And here we are, idiots coming to write letters. Simon coming, constituting nuisance. The DOS people constituting nuisance, coming to write letters, and Simon will come and interpret their letters and use it for distraction. And they would write their own letters to tell you nonsense. And you cannot ask them, is Mazen Nnamdi Kanu supposed to be in the DSS custody in the first place? As long as you are in that position, claiming you want to be, you want to lead Biafra, whatever you think, or in the place where Mazen Nnamdi Kanu put you in the DOS, that it means that you have the responsibility to lead the people. By now, they should be telling us what to do and the things that should be done, or even quiet and just taking action. And we see Mazen Nnamdi Kanu free. But what we see is letter and counter letter. And then when they write letters, somebody starts the letter, and then Simon picks up the letter and uses it as his propaganda. And then distraction everywhere. Distraction everywhere. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? And all we are doing now is we are arguing about letters. Is Mazen Nnamdi Kanu supposed to be there in the first place? They cash out with the situation. Thank you so much, Ego. Thank you for that. They all cash out with the situation. Simon will now cash out with it. DOS people will cash out. Out of their own people. Everybody have their clique. Those who believe in the DOS members, those who believe in Simon. They cash out in every situation. Mazen Nnamdi Kanu has become the cash cow. He has become the cash cow. Everybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry comes and why are we this wicked? Why are we this wicked? When you see such letters, you take that letter, you send right to them. You are arguing here about Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, who is supposed to be the doctor, and I see some posts. I see anybody fighting Jimako is fighting. For God's sake, what is wrong with us? Are you now? Is it that you don't even understand that these lawyers too are doing their businesses? The lawyers don't want you to act. They don't want you to fight. They don't want you to do what you have to do to free you. Here, Ejiofor will come and tell you, calm down, and the issue is in control. We are doing everything to free him. When they know that the people should rise up and take actions in their hands, they come to make you. Don't you see that everybody is cashing out of this? Some of you take sides with the DOS members. Some of you take side with Nigeria. Some, of course, that the DOS also part of, because their mentality is all Nigeria. Some of you take sides with Simon. Some of you take sides with Aloy Jimako. Some of you just keep taking sides. Ask the 3 parties or the 4 parties, Nigeria, then agents of Nigeria, that's the DOS and Simon Ekpa. Those are the agents, 2 agents, and Aloy Jimako, of course, representing all of them. In that clique, ask Nigeria and the agents of Nigeria, is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu supposed to be in that place? Yes, my brother Christian. Sorry, I don't know. I find it. I'm always very reluctant to put on that phone because I'm using another phone, but another app is there. You know that but that particular phone that has that app of the Biafra Global Network, that phone always trips off. You know, it just says and it gets hot and it trips off. I think it should be. I don't know what is wrong with it because I had to factory setting and all of that, so antivirus and all of that. I don't know what's going on with it. Maybe I'm going to go check it with the repairers. I don't know because even when I asked the repairers the other time, they were telling me the kinds of some of them say they will change the change the panel and all of that, all the information in that place will be lost. So I will try and see if I can be putting it on. Whenever it trips off and it comes on again, I try to put it and all of that. So sorry about that. I think we were supposed to even talk. We were actually communicating there, and before something went, before I now have not put it. I have forgotten. Anyways, the phone is just here. I have forgotten that I'm supposed to put it on, and that's the truth. So Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is not supposed to be there. And what some of you do, some are writing and saying that nobody goes against Aloy Jimako. Okay, let's believe he's doing his work as a lawyer. Why are these lawyers not getting a helping hand from those who are not part of their system? For instance, Bruce Fein is a lawyer of international repute, former Attorney General of the United States. Bruce Fein can be part of that, this case, if only any of the lawyers would just say to Bruce Fein and write to the court, I want Bruce Fein to be part of this because of the nature of this stuff. Then they formally impute him in all of this. That is how automatic. Because somebody coming here to tell me, no, you're getting it wrong, young man. You think I'm here to joke? And you call yourself South Africa? Are you okay? Are you saying that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is supposed to be there? Are we supposed to be writing letters and talking about who is supposed to bring a doctor and who is not supposed to be a doctor? You're coming to tell me that be even rude and you're getting it wrong, young man. Please, I don't want distractions here. Please be careful. If you want to listen, be careful and listen. Don't come here and tell me I'm wrong because I know what I'm saying. So now, listen. Bruce Fein, how it operates is this. Since Bruce Fein doesn't have a license to operate in Nigeria, all Bruce Fein needs is a letter from one of the lawyers to say, I want Bruce Fein to be part of this because of the nature of this case. Automatically, it gives Bruce Fein access to the court. But when Bruce Fein came 5 times, they frustrated him. What does that tell you? That tells you that their interest is not freeing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. I'm talking about the lawyers now. Their interest is how they can shine and improve their career or make their career popular using the case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That is just it. Because if you are truly interested in this, yes, ego, I ignore them. If you are really interested in out, oh Lord have mercy. If Bruce Fein even said it, he can approve of him being part of it. They were the ones who didn't approve of it and submit his name to the courts. Ejiofor didn't submit his name to the courts. Zekame didn't submit his name to the courts. These are the 2 main people who would have submitted. Okay, now Jimako too is just, he knows this law, he knows this rule. Why can't he contact? That tells you that the lawyers too have their own interest. So don't come and begin to cite people. Look at things critically when you are dealing with anything. When it comes to freedom fighting, in anything, whether your friend, whether it is me, don't be sentimental. How can Mazen Amdekano be there? If they really want him to be free, once Bruce Fein enters that court, all these adjournments will not happen. And that's the truth. Because they will be very, very careful in the actions they take. They will be very, very, very careful. They'll be very, very careful. If the lawyers want to be real and truthful and want us to believe in them or what they're doing, that they really want Mazen Amdekano out, leave all this issue of medical stuff, medical not, medical that, medical this stuff, medical that. Go straight and invite Bruce Fein, who is also Mazen Amdekano's lawyer. The courts cannot stop you. Nigeria government cannot stop you. Once the lawyer, but because they are all afraid of their lives. Maybe, because if they approve of Bruce Fein, Nigeria government will come after them. So they need to dance to the tune of, that tells you that they are dancing to the narrative of the Nigeria contraption. Because if they bring an external hand that is neutral, the case will turn against them and the case will just end very quickly. So for them to continue, playing the script of the Fulanis, they need not to carry out that action the way they do, because they're afraid of their lives. That tells you that all of them are not something. Everybody have something at stake. Everybody has an interest. It's about interest. Some will come and say, Prince Kanu brought a doctor. This one will say, no, he's not supposed to bring a doctor. We are the ones who are supposed to bring a doctor. What an insult on Mazen Amdekano. What an insult on Mazen Amdekano. Is he supposed to be there? And somebody has the gut to write a letter. Simon will come and write his own letter. He needs to be surgery. He needs that surgery. After all the threats he made since last year or 2 years ago, making threats and upon threats. Then in the end, you just write, Mazen Amdekano needs his medical. Nigeria government, we have UN should know this. UN, you are put on notice, blah, blah, blah. What nonsense is that? Why are we joking with things? Why are we joking with all of this stuff? What about the threats? The threats of no oil exploration, the threats of burning down the zoo, the threats of crumbling the economy of the zoo, all these threats because of Mazen Amdekano, yet nothing. And then you come start writing to UN after 150 days, and after you have deceived and manipulated the people, then you bring up something online and you begin to make us dance around, and the DOS members will bring their own letter. Everybody will just go crazy and start talking about, and all we do is we discuss these things. Some of the lawyers have skeletons in their cupboard. So if they do, they will open their files. I guess, yeah, that's true. Yes, that's true. So they don't need to go against, because they have their own stuff. And these people have the information about them. So if they go that way, they want to go very, very transparently, their own files will be opened. That's how they do that. And then nobody wants to get themselves involved in transparency. People just want to do things the way they like. How can we get Biafra in this way? They make no sense at all. And that's it. They make no sense. They make no sense. The question every one of us should be asking, stop arguing about their letters. It's a distraction. Ask them the question. This letter you're writing is Mazen, and talking about doctor. You are the one who's supposed to bring doctor. This one is in charge of bringing doctor. This one is not in charge of bringing doctor. Is Mazen Amdekano supposed to be there in the first place? Have you done your job to make sure he's out? Have you done your job to make sure he is out? Why talk about a doctor or no doctor? The issue here is not doctor. He has to be out. 2 years. And we have people who have offices collecting resources from Biafrans. Simon is collecting resources. And DOS members collecting resources from their own people who believe in them. Yet none of these resources, the priority now should be Mazen Amdekano. So every money is being collected now, by now, is supposed to be channeled to what would make Mazen Amdekano come out. To be channeled, that's the priority now. Any reasonable people, that's what they do. Especially when they have an opportunity, like in Biafra land, where you know their oil is coming from our land, when you know that they're making money from our land, then you put them in a situation where they will come to the table to discuss. Everybody's just constituting nuisance. Nobody cares. Everybody wants the status quo. Asarido Kubo is there guarding the pipelines. The other one, Tompolo, there guarding the pipelines. And nobody cares. because they're making the money. As soon as Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped, Tompolo was contracted, because initially when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was locked up, he was very active and he was very, 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 useful to the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu said it. Now they know that if they don't settle him, he would take actions as before, and it will affect their revenue. They now contracted him. And how wicked our people are. So if Tompolo is real, why would he take that contract when he knows the intention? That is why we all must be reasonable. Reason. All these things we're doing, and we want freedom. That is why I want to talk about the bloody side of freedom today. The bloody business called freedom. And I made a statement about the bloody business called freedom, and somebody came on Facebook and started saying, have you shed your blood? Look at it. Our people, you see, that is why we are struggling. That is why we are struggling, because our people are shallow-minded. When you talk about bloody business, they think it's about cutting somebody's head. That's how they reason. That is how they reason. We know that along the line, people could die. I'll block this South Africa guy. This South Africa person. This is not the name of a human being. So I think it should be one of Simon's e-frogs. So let me block that guy. He doesn't reason. Whether a guy or a lady, maybe it's one of their persons. So let me block the person. I don't know. So he's coming to lecture us on freedom fighting. Why not go and open your platform and start teaching people how to fight freedom? And your name is South Africa. How can you know anything when your name is South Africa? Is anybody hearing me? Okay, I believe people are hearing because the screen is frozen here. I don't know. Is it that the laptop is too full? The documents in it is too much. So it's freezing. It just keeps freezing. I don't know. I don't know if you can hear me. Let me use my other device to check if I'm actually talking to myself or talking to everybody. And people are hearing me. So that's the narrative. So I'm actually talking to myself. Okay, people can hear me. I believe people can hear me. So let me continue, because I heard the feedback of what I said initially. South Africa. Now I'm going to go straight to today's message, but I want to read a particular scripture before I begin to give you analysis of this, because you must understand the place of blood in everything that has to do with sanity, freedom, and all of that. Biafrans have shed their blood for a long time, for the umpth time. Been killing, dying, being killed brutally, right from even before 1914. Our people are kidnapped. Our people are taken to other parts of the world, sold as slaves. Several things have happened, and of course, we have the stories of some of them, carrying out heroic actions like drowning themselves. Lots of things, blood everywhere. And if you go through history, you'll discover that everything that have to do with the crumbling of empires had to do with blood. Blood is shed. The Roman Empire crumbled by shedding of blood. The Grecian Empire crumbled by shedding of blood. I'm talking about the empires now that relate to the concept of Israel, that oppressed Israel, which is, of course, related in Scripture, because Scripture talks about these empires that oppressed Israel. So there are so many empires, but like the British Empire is not in Scripture, but it's part of the Roman Empire, of course, an offshoot of the Roman Empire. And all of these empires have a relationship with blood, because some of them were enthroned. In fact, almost every one of them, yes, every one of them were enthroned, and by blood, by shedding of blood, and they were dethroned by shedding of blood. In the place of blood in everything that has to do with beginning and ending is very critical, and you must understand this in perspective. That doesn't mean that we have to start going and killing ourselves or killing people. No, that's not what it means. So when you say the blood is business, some people think you just take up guns and arrows and machetes and all of that and you start killing people. That's not what it means. What it means is that we have a system, we have a system, a pattern that has to do with sacrifices for freedom, and it affects and cuts across in the sense of the narrative when it's been talked about.
Sacrifices.
So I'm going to, my screen is still frozen, but I see that you are still hearing me. So let me continue in that regard. Now, we know about, by scripture, we know about the Egyptian empire, and you saw what happened, in that regard, how Israel and the firstborn of Israel, the firstborn of Egypt were killed by God to make sure his people are free. Blood was shed for people to be freed. And you also heard of course, after that, you have the Assyrian Empire that oppressed Israel several times for over 300 or so. How many years or so? I think over 1,000 and something years or so. No, I hope I'm not saying nonsense. Over about 300 and something years or so. The Assyrian Empire, I think so. I've forgotten the number of years. And then after the Assyrian Empire, then the Babylonian Empire came in and oppressed Israel, I think about for 60 something years or so. I can't remember now how come I've forgotten these things. Anyways, but don't bother about the time period, but also bother about the formation. I don't know, my network is bad here, so I have to just hearing me? Is anybody hearing me? Is anybody hearing me? Hear me? Is anybody hearing me? Is anybody hearing me? Hear me? Is anybody hearing me? Is anybody hearing me? Is anybody hearing me? Hello?